And somehow Noble Savage got in here before I even started the thing. That's interesting. You're not late. You're early. Exactly. What is going on? Hey, so yeah, hopefully this just records for posterity. I don't know that we'll expect necessarily get people in here, but I haven't done anything in a while, and I just figured that I better catch up before events outpace me, and I really try to catch up in the future, and everybody's just bored with what I'm back hashing things from. I mean, now if you say something 3 days old, you're way out of date. So I'm at least a week out of date. I'm in meaning to do something for the new year and just never got around to it. Kept slacking off, and I got lots of things to say, but never got the time to put it down and produce anything decent. And going live is about the only thing that I don't know got time to do. So here we are. I know saw I was on Matt's chat just a second ago, RTT, and I didn't mean to bump into him, but I only got certain time, only got certain time to do things. So we're gonna knock this out. I just do the monologue thing, see everybody that checks in, and you know, comment on our future outlook. A lot different than the preparing 2021 video I was thinking about doing at the end of the new year, or beginning of the new year, I should say, end of the old year, um, and that really looking forward. What I meant to say, everybody, for the new year and moving forward is now's the time to implement plans and action. Maintain what you have. Everything you prepped is going to have to go into action. This is it in our lifetime, more than likely. This is all going to either devolve and continue to get worse and worse, like the situation overall, just all the different things coming together, coalescence of all the things that can possibly go bad are going bad, and that everything you're doing should be putting in action something that can help mitigate your exposure to life and safety concerning either economics or the political situation or any other number of the normal situations that come up, because you still got hurricanes and tornadoes and everything else. So on the prepping side, that's kind of the thing to put out there is like this you're in the middle of it, of the collapse, the SHTF, the I think the big thing to look out for when you have your normal things like hurricanes, tornadoes, snowstorms, all those things you need to be ready for on a normal basis. That everybody's kind of squirreled away your weekend's worth of food if the power goes out or things like that, and to prepare for the next level of things that are above and beyond the normal everyday things is extreme rule of law. Is right here in front of us, front and center, is a big concern. Uh, I think some people may have used the other term, but I think I first heard that with Southern Prepper One way back in the old days, right? Like 10 years ago. It's the first person I heard really coin that extreme rule of law. When everybody was talking about WROL, well, extreme rule of law is a real possibility, and that's the police state rollout, of course. And that seems to be something to really get your head wrapped around, and how you can prepare things for that situation, avoiding capture and everything else that goes with that. Not just resisting, but also giving the got to be able to escape and evade. Something to think about there. Safe houses and all that other stuff that Mule Team can probably tell you more about than any of us. But something to think about in your AO in particular. And some of us are going to be exposed to it more than anything. And the big thing from last year that I can only reiterate, and the thing we've been talking about for 5, 6 years, get out of the city if at all possible. If it's not evident after the year of rioting, and it can pop up literally in any city at any time, yeah, watch out for extreme rule of law and get out of the city. Three prepping idea, three things to really get you prepared to think about preparing for it. If you cannot get out of the city, which I understand, you really have to look at your security posture and your um, not just physical security, but your informational security. How you expose yourself to information that other people can snatch up and take advantage of, whether that's your movements, uh, you know, well, I guess not your physical security, your body, but also your possessions. Obviously, thefts and everything going up with the economic situation is something that you really got to be on the lookout for in any built up area, large urban sprawl metroplex type areas. Most of you all aren't in that situation. Most of you all have figured that out long ago, or at least you're on the fringes enough. It's not a big concern. But if you're of a individual mindset in some of these areas, the horde and the mob is going to single you out pretty quick if you don't have good informational security, um, with your numbers, your movements, your uh, patterns. Don't set a pattern for pretty much anything you do, because the hyenas will come looking. And some of you have that stuff figured out, and some of it's just a word to anybody that might see this later. Um, on the look for this year is really upping your stuff to the next level of, for a couple years back, we talked about beginning prepping to really get the message out to people that are just starting out. And I'm seeing a lot of comments in the comments of a lot of people that have been here for a long time. So I'm not talking to you. I'm just getting those thoughts out that I was, trying to put out there for the last week or whatever. Even if you're just beginning, catch up is difficult, but you got to get started with something. Look back at those old videos in the cache back there on the channel, and you go anywhere on YouTube. Obviously, there's a million beginning prepping videos on YouTube. Find something, get some ideas. Begin with an idea and begin with a plan, right? Because you got to get started. And I imagine everybody went through 2020 trying to think of what to do, hopefully. And I don't know, maybe there's people out there who are just starting, their life, the 18, 19, 17-year-olds who came from a place that they didn't think like that, and now they find this stuff on the YouTube, and maybe this is the first time they've been exposed to it. You never know who's going to come across videos like this, right? So for people like that too, like, got to start with something, and finding those old videos will be the best way to do that, because this is not what this video is about, or this chat as it's going to turn out here. It looks like as people keep popping in, um, but really implementing and establishing some sort of mindset planning to those events, I think, is the big thing for this coming year. As much as we've talked about the riots and other things and avoiding the cities, we've talked about it in past years when kind of things were escalating in 2016. Avoiding, choosing a route, knowing your route, going in and out of areas so that you don't get caught down in the ground level, like you take the wrong turn off of an interstate, wrong exit, and end up in an area. Same thing is going to apply, and maybe heighten that alert level a little bit in all situations when going and traveling to places like that. And last year demonstrated a lot of that, and just moving forward this year is going to be even more and more so. And the extreme rule of law seems like we got set up. I'm not going to say I told you so, but I kind of told you so, but I'm not going to talk about it too much. But I don't know. Trump is what we said he was, to a large extent. He was in it for him. He was in it for his name at best, and at worst, he set everybody up to pretty much destroy any resistance to the big, overwhelming police state and the big, overwhelming government overreach. He set everybody up for that. That's where we're at, and that, in my mind, it's just funny how it all coalesced up to the last month of his tenure there. It kind of all led to this culmination point. And then this evening, just as I was watching Matt's video or his chat tonight, Trump put out this video of him being all conciliatory and a whole different man, right? Whole different guy. Those are lawless protesters. We're going to have a peaceful transition. Everything has changed. Q's going to tell you probably that he was under duress and he didn't really mean it that way. Still back the team or whatever. Common sense says he's in on it, or he's ignorant, right? He's either ignorant or he's in on it. Is one of the common criteria you can use to evaluate situations on people's decision making, and that's just where I stand on that. He must be in on it to switch the trigger like that. He is the president, It's not like you can put a whole lot of thumb screws to the president if he's not already in on it or in on the team and wasn't already compromised, 6, 8, 10 years ago, when he was friends with the Clintons and hanging out in New York City as a Democrat. But people didn't want to hear that. And here we are. So everybody got set up. Pretty much the establishment Republicans is all that is left of what would we say? What would you say? Our Republican Party, right? All that's left of that is the political shell of spineless corporatist is what's left in there, and that's all the GOP is. There is no resistance to push back against the political motives of the socialist communist. There's not enough political capital, enough political morale. It doesn't seem like at this point. It's within the Beltway. Let's put it that way. Within the halls of DC, which would be nice if we had assaulted the earth of that. Would be nice, but here we are. So you're going to have this big impetus and this big push of irrational lawmaking. In our eyes, it's going to be very apparent that this stuff is irrational. To the average person, it's going to look like they're saving the world, or getting their political will out. And people are they're going to justify it, and everybody's going to justify it for the media, from the media on down, that this is all just the repercussions of elections, right? Your rights are subject to the repercussions of elections, they're going to say. And that's the extreme rule of law that I think we really got to be looking out for. It's going to affect the economic situation, your freedom of movement, your freedom of possessions. It could get big and it could go fast. So something to prepare for and think through here in short order. Do we have the weeks till the inauguration? I don't know. Last night I was pretty convinced that Pence was going to take over under the 25th Amendment and enact some sort of rash protocols, but that hasn't rolled out yet. Um, I was putting it out there on Twitter for those that follow the Twitter that Pence was looking an awful lot like Palpatine last night in how he was looking to take command and take over. You know, so they still got days to do that. If they roll out the 25th Amendment, that means that it was probably part in the cards already. They wanted to get to this point to where they pretty much dissolved the political support of that supposed resistance side, right? And then enact the big push from the top of whether it's martial law or any other type of movement. And there's also things on the board like wars and stuff like that are still on the table. So something to look out for there. I don't know if we have 2 weeks to worry about it. So get your stuff in order, prep accordingly. I think I saw Guns Coast to Coast in here, and he's done a lot of good videos about it. And I would definitely say pay attention to his videos. He's been over the target for sure. So go check out Guns Coast to Coast, which most of you, I believe, do visit occasionally. So that's that. Let's see what we got here in here. We're running good. All right. So that's kind of the up to the current events. And then we all have the suspects, what's going to happen with the transition of supposedly political power. And what's going to happen in a couple of weeks with the inauguration and the puppet masters. Just again, the extreme rule of law concern in the big one, the economic situation, the hyperinflation, because they got to get the economy running somehow, and the banks and the big businesses who deal in trillions aren't getting the throughput they need to stay afloat. We see it, in the $1,000 makes a big difference, big deal. They're working in those big 7-8 digit numbers that they have to worry about, that they're not participating and getting the dollar flow through that they need. And the Fed's going to have to push that stuff out, and they got to have the political cover to do it, because the Fed wants the acquiescence of the political class I guess you'd say, to pretty much take over the country, to buy out all things that they can and cover all these debts is the Fed's whole goal. So the economic side, it's not looking good either. Not that anything has looked good all year, and so there you have it with that. We are in a very isolated, compromised position, outnumbered, out not necessarily outgunned, but definitely outnumbered, and isolated in ideas and ability to spread those ideas. The media, social media, and everything has shown that that's going to get clamped down on pretty easily, and so take that into account when you're looking to find your team to your left and your right and getting those things set up and work with who you're going to be able to work with in the near future in particular uh, is concerning. So prepare to be marginalized. I don't know that we're going to have necessarily any balkanization with what I've seen. I know that there does seem to be a certain amount of acquiescence down at down to the state levels. Don't know what the local levels can have happen, but it is what it is. So the how that's going to happen and the extreme rule of law concern is still to be determined. Everybody knows your own area. Evaluate accordingly because it can roll up on you pretty quick, depending on your profile and your how much you are out there in the space, and then how much you are of a concern to them. How much do they concern do they have for you and your abilities and your ability to resist? Let's put it that way. Thus, I guess it gets to the kind of the point of the chat here. The title of the chat kind of gets around to that. For all the domestic tourists out there, which pretty much all of you are if you're watching this, um, how do you operate in the space covertly as best as possible, um, so that you can move freely and acquire goods and services freely, which they're trying to clamp down on. The digital currency push is something to keep your eyes on, and try to find ways and means of barter and maintaining cash flow and using cash where you can at all times, uh, and see how this digital currency gets rolled out. That's all we can do. We don't know how it's going to get implemented. We don't know how it's going to go, but that's definitely a big push. They've tried to float it out there continuously through the last year that cash carries the virus, which is total BS. No different than anything else. So they're using that card extremely on just about everything. So they will continue that to keep. They're using that as a cover and what do you call it? Smoke screen potentially. The whole virus thing is continuing to be a smoke screen for their continued push of extreme rule of law. Right? Yeah, granted, people are getting sick, and if you have any potential weaknesses to be susceptible to the virus, you want to take precautions and don't be around people. Yes, absolutely. But they're using it for the extreme rule of law push is the big thing that most of you are watching and being aware of, because the more they keep people locked down, the more they destroy the economy, the more they're going to have to push out law enforcement to prevent crime and other things, because people got to eat, people got to get their hustle on to provide for their families. And this supposed whatever $600 they've supposedly sent out is not going to cover most of you guys. It doesn't cover pretty much anybody, even people who are considered, you know, in poverty. $600 isn't going to last them a minute when it comes to catching up and what they need in food and services to provide for their security, for their own physical well-being. Right? $600 isn't even scratch. So that's probably going to get bumped up to 2,000. I think I think that's something that will happen. So they're going to, soothe the masses a little bit with that 2,000. Um, but the whole idea that they're going to keep the economy on the pinch on the economy is a big concern, because there's really no need for it. The mandates and those things are just an example of how they want to flex control. It's just like the state saying, "Hey, we can do this, so we're going to do it," and they're getting the cooperation of the businesses, and that's a huge concern. Um, Businesses that are willing to take it. A lot of businesses are fighting back. There's been some awesome pushback in New York. Most of you are on the aware of that stuff, which is good to see. Um, but people need to continue to do those things everywhere possible. Southern California had some of that. It's down in San Diego. LA is a cesspool. So we know that kind of like all those predictions everybody talked about years ago, we talked about getting out of the cities. Um, LA has been predicted to be the first like real big collapse vulnerable city because of all its lack of resources that surround it. Similar to Vegas. Vegas is very resource scarce around it, but it's not as big density. The density of the people is not as great, right? So LA is showing the signs of the weakening and how it can collapse very rapidly from everything we're seeing in this virus situation. In this kind of, they did it. I mean, obviously they did a lot to themselves because they closed down their economy without rationally going through the process and going through planning and actually putting in something that could actually work, and where businesses have to make their own decisions, people have to make their own decisions. Instead, they did the totalitarian thing, and we always know that that always doesn't work. Um, so here's where we are. In LA, watching this is going to be your case study. If you're not in LA, at least if you're in LA, obviously you're going to be exposed. But if we're watching it from the outside looking in, this is once again an opportunity to evaluate, see how that goes down, see how people react, see what collapses first, second, third. We got the medical services, which are extremely stressed. They announced this week that if you weren't paying attention, which I wouldn't blame if you weren't, um, LA's medical services, emergency medical services, were essentially not transporting to hospitals if they didn't think the person was going to make it. They were told to not code if they went to a scene, and they weren't. They didn't. They had to evaluate. They said they. I guess they waived it. There's waivers in place or whatever. I guess that if you're don't do life saving treatment, save your oxygen. So basically, they're deciding who lives and who dies in LA at this point. And I wasn't sure if it's because of uh, they're transporting supposed very sick virus patients or what. It wasn't clear on that part of it. But just the fact that they are telling EMS at that level to decide is very concerning, because usually it's left up to a doctor level, and you get down, EMS is not at that highly trained level. Obviously they have paramedics, but usually when they give the authority, I guess you'd say, if you want to call it that, the decision making of, hey, you can make the decision on who lives and dies based upon their ability to sustain this stuff. They leave that at a doctor level, and they've pushed it down to the EMT paramedic level. Very unusual. Very, it's a dire situation. I don't know why it's so stressed compared to everywhere else, but they've been on lockdown pretty much since last April, and it's only gotten worse and worse. So the lockdown's not working. Uh, but they keep saying, well, if you just do this, it's not like there's massive non-compliance. And that's the thing with the masks too. It's like they don't get it. It's like they keep whining about everybody being selfish and not doing the steps. Well, pretty much you're getting mass compliance, but yet things get worse and worse because the virus isn't working the way they thought it would. But they don't want to admit they're wrong. And for the most part, all these decisions were made, I guess you would say, without thinking through what actually you should do to respond to a virus, right? So you have incompetence in political theater instead of common sense and medical decision making. Because everybody, yeah. Anyway, I don't want to get stuck on that, but LA being your case study on how the collapse could roll out in your area. So there you are with that. So 2021 looking pretty good. Looks like we'll all be branded here shortly. Tony sent me a text earlier, something about the FBI, but going after people. I guess they're going after people that were in DC yesterday. So I'm not sure about how what's going on with that, but I guess they're picking people up that were there that they've tracked down, which is interesting. Hopefully, people just keep their mouths shut and don't say anything. If you're in a situation like that as a domestic tourist traveling throughout the country, you definitely need to. There's nothing you got to say. There's nothing you can say that can help your situation. Just put it that way. A wise man once told me that. I think that's Rebel. I think Rebel's in here too. I think I saw War Drum show up. I think we pretty much came to that conclusion long ago. And just be aware of that if you get, as you're a domestic tourist traveling throughout the country, know that you can not improve your position if you ever get detained by those extreme rule of law authorities. So just deal with the repercussions as they come out, as you can, as you have to, I guess you'd say, because you're not going to talk your way out of it. That's for sure. They're only looking for you to incriminate yourself. Um, but yeah, business is picking up all across the board. Get your preps in order. Good to see everybody in here. I would go back to the beginning, but it looks like we've had a ton of comments and a ton of people show up. The one time I just kind of want to chill and maybe have my normal 12 or 15 in here, and like everybody and their mom shows up. So here we are. Noble Savage was the first one in here. Die Bullfrog showed up. Pop's Quest, what is up? Cash is king for now. He's back in the cash conversation. There's War Drums. Mickey, what is up? How you doing? Mickey's curious how close secession some states are. That's a good question, and it's come up. Fortunately, that is the big rally cry from this channel for a decade now. Believe it or not, secession is the only peaceful way out of this. But people don't want to hear that. People want total control of everybody. Everybody must live like them. Everybody must comply. And Florida must be like California, and Texas must be like North Dakota. Uh, but secession is the only way we can get out of this situation peacefully. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Texas floated the idea there right after the election time. Was it was it last month before Christmas? It was a while back. And that's always been a talking point out of Texas, of course, and other places. But you would hope that more places are picking up the cause as they see how things could roll out, how the election went, how just a disaster centralized control is. People are going to have to decide to go their own way if they want to value their own survival, right? And the survival of their state, their economies, because successful economies are going to get sucked out off of with this federalized state that's coming in. The more and more centralized they try to make control, taxes, all these other burdens that are going to come out of DC with this new regime coming in. States are going to have to decide: do we want to, play nice, or are we going to have to worry about the survival of our own people and our own economies and our own viability and people's, welfare, which is their job to worry about those things, and are they going to be willing to secede to see it through? You're gonna have to have a lot of strong leaders to do it. That's for sure. It's not just going to be a whim, spur of the moment thing. People are going to have to coalesce together. They've been thinking about this a long time. And we talked about this back at the beginning of 2020 about evaluating where you're at, right? And part of your planning for this year. Take the time the next couple of weeks, especially as this inauguration rolls up, see how your local papers report it, what the political tension and reality is in your area, who your neighbors are, those things. Not that you may not have already found that out in November, but people do change their minds, especially with what happened yesterday. Yesterday's event was set up to pretty much just, again, destroy the political base of that whole side of what we would call the conservative right. It was meant to wholly demoralize that. So people are either going to go shut up and just be demoralized potentially, or become more outspoken potentially too. That could cause people to act out. Know what's in your area, know people how are feeling, or if they're ready to throw down or not, just based upon that alone. That's just based on political motivations, not even based upon the other things that we could be concerned about, right? So watch out for those things that are coming up the next couple of weeks. Really look at where you sit in that. I've talked about it here being close to the Capitol. It is the seat of the government, but it is not. The people that sit in those seats are not supported by the people that surround them. Let's put it that way. because everything is so dominated by Vegas, and the Vegas politicians come up here, take the seats, and pretty much sit in the place of government. But it is not a friendly place if it ever came to that point. So this would be considered basically a seam in the political structure, and what could cause chaos if things really were to go south. Something to think about in your own little area. It could go all the way down to the county commissioner level if you know a lot of the details, or if they are very outspoken, local leaders like that. It'd be good to know where they stand, and evaluate their stance and what they could potentially have, whether they're leading people or just sucking off the people and sucking off the government. Depends on, you can find out what their motivations are. So that stuff you need to find that stuff out, if you haven't already. So I'm getting close to the end of my 30 minutes. Everything you say, Ken, will be used. Hey, what's up, Walter? I said hi to you earlier, Walter. Seen Walter in a couple chats today. He was in Tony's and elsewhere. Noble Savage prays for a chance to resist. That's an excellent comment. And I think as domestic tourists, that's our only wish is that we'll have an opportunity to die with our boots on. Right? It is a simple wish. It's only one you can hope to, but we know that the other side, when it comes to what you would consider a war, but they will call a law enforcement action, nobody plays fair, and fairness is a fool's errand. So don't plan on playing fair, I think, would be the recommendation there. It's you got to play to win, so just take that for what it's worth. Tony checked in. What's up, Tony? Bullfrog, how you doing, Uncle Al? Good to see you. Uncle Al out there behind enemy lines. Walter, Mickey, and can confirm LA is bad, right? Yeah, I know how you know, Mickey. You're too close to the ground zero there. Angel, our dad on YouTube, what is up? All right, we'll see you later, Dad. I gotta check out if I've missed I don't know if I've missed any of your videos lately or not, Dad. I've just caught a little bit of some people, but I haven't really delved into looking at a lot of people's reruns. I got to check your channel. Mickey says he's swamped. Hey, Corsairs, how's it going? Good to see you. Be good to see Corsairs comment. Have you done a video on the situation there, Corsair? Because you were at ground zero as well. So be interesting to hear your take. I'll check your video to see if I'm going to go to the very end here to catch up because I'm way behind. Mr. Lock and Low, what is up? Biker Bob, look at that. The Canuck has arrived. Or are you in Arizona right now, Biker? I know Biker does the snowbird thing. What is up, Biker Bob? Good to see you. Last time I saw one of your videos, you were just doing the traveling thing. So I don't know. Pika has arrived. Nevada Cario. Good to see you. How about Mike Pence, says Tony, right? You missed my Palpatine comment earlier, didn't you, Tony? Red October in the house. What's up in Texas? Speaking of Secession. Lower the camera. What do you see? What do you look at me, Red? You don't need to look at me, man. What's up, Red? How you doing? Throwing knives as usual. I guess lock and load, you mean uphold the Constitution or else? Yeah, we know that's not going to happen. They haven't enforced the Constitution in a long time. But good to see you guys in here. Saints and Sappers checks in, but he's confused. I'm not sure why he's confused. And Biker Bob's still above the northern border, I guess. Oh, the border's closed. Oh, so you can't even come to Arizona, Biker Bob? Really? That's interesting. Really? Because I'm pretty sure there were Canadians coming down to Vegas for New Year's, Christmas time frame. I'd have to confirm with somebody else, but that's interesting. I thought that there was Canadian travel allowed. I know that there's a limited travel between England because of this new the new mutation, which happens anyway, of the virus. It's just funny. Could fly, but no. Oh, you can't drive across. You have to fly. Well, that's a good control method, isn't it? I'm sure there's lots of Come on, biker. I'm sure you get creative. I'm sure there's lots of off the beaten path, off the non-official crossing points into Canada, right? Hey, Wayne, ungrateful present, peasant present, ungrateful peasant. What's up, Wayne? How you doing? It's good to see you, Wayne. Wayne's been doing a lot of good videos lately too. I've been checking in on him and some of his stuff. Gray Note, what's up, Gray Note? Gray Note's been doing. Gray Note keeps it short and sweet. He doesn't drag anything out. Gray Note gets his 2-3 minute video and he's boom, done. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Gray Note? Good to see you. It's been a while. It is a long border, Biker Bob. Exactly. It's a long border. There's somewhere you can cross. Carrie, you probably missed the very beginning of the video. We are in it. You are in the collapse SHT event for your lifetime, I think. You just got to adapt, and it's getting progressively worse. But what everybody has talked about and prepared for, you're in it. I mean, you're in an economic collapse. You're in a viral pandemic, for lack of a better word. I mean, you're in some. It doesn't affect necessarily us. It does affect the older generation in particular. But you're in a bad virus situation, and you're in an extreme rule of law implementation situation. Like, what more do you want? You want a big, meteorite? We can always add more things, but it is a bad situation. It is not like it's good. It's not like it's normal. It is definitely a collapse scenario, collapse of empires type of scenario. So you're living it. You're living the dream, for lack of a better word. So Pika, just know that, adapt and do what you can. And that's kind of like what I was talking about at the beginning, is like any new preppers or whatever, you got to go find some other videos, definitely, to get yourself up to speed quickly as you can. It's not all about stuff. It's also about skills and just knowledge and awareness. So don't think it's too late. No, if you're 20, that means you're going to live through it and live long past where we're at, Pika. You know what I'm saying? I think I saw a comment that I didn't get a chance. I didn't see who made it. Something about Bitcoin, and I must be new to the channel. What was that name? I didn't see it. But no, I'm not into Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, the way I look at Bitcoin, not to I don't want to down talk it or anything. It is a speculative investment. Understand that you are gambling because you have to get it out. You have to cash out before you lose everything. It's not a prepper, and it's not a prepper investment. Let's think about it that way. It is not hard and fast. It has no intrinsic value. It is simply a way to get ahead of the dollar, which I acknowledge it can be ahead of the dollar, and be able to basically gamble and bring in more money than you put into it. So that's the way I look at Bitcoin, and more power to you if you want to get into that. But when the lights go out, from a prepper angle, Bitcoin is not it's not solid. I wouldn't consider it a prepper topic, or I wouldn't consider it a solid investment either. We try to focus on the gold and silver, brass and lead, food and water, things like that. You need to have all that stuff in order before you start gambling away on Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? But if you got in on it early, obviously anybody that was in on it 10 years ago, anybody that did that is just speaking it up. They're talking it up big time. They're talking about all this. They made a killing, but they had to wait for everybody else to come into it. So it's like sitting at a roulette table. You got to know when to cash out. Just understand that, I think. And I think that same way about any type of stock market investment, I think, is the same thing. I think you're gambling in the banker's casino. That's what I could think of the whole situation there as well. So it's not just Bitcoin. It's anything that you can't hold in your hand, anything that you can't utilize, anything that doesn't have intrinsic value that you can utilize. So I would just say that to whoever asked about the Bitcoin. I saw Pika said something else. Do I know a channel, The Contingency Plan? No, I do not. Acres are good, Saints, right? Buying dirt, buying land cannot go wrong. Short of somebody doing a hazmat spill on your land, land is a probably the best investment you can make because you can always utilize it and make something out of it, grow something, build something, grow trees, sell trees, whatever. Hey, Wayne, have a good one. Thanks for checking in. The kids want dinner. I don't think you have any lids. I'm assuming that's kids. Yeah. All right. Hey, Angel says you'll own nothing and like it. That's what they want. The central bank wants to own everything. They want you to be in debt to the central bank, which is basically going to be the corporate government once they all merge and unite. And then you go towards one world government. That's the goal. That's the end state. That's the prophecy. Um, how far we get down that road this year is another question. But prepare to be able to survive through it and thrive through it. We've talked about that many times. Is find ways to thrive. Or not Wayne and Wes both talk about thriving, not only in while you're prepping, thrive in a situation when you're having to utilize your preps and skills. Set yourself up for success by thriving, not just you surviving. Because survival at its basic, if you're just surviving, it's pretty miserable life. It's tough if all you're doing is worried about food and water and that's your day to day and that's all you're doing. It's survival at its core is a very difficult. You want to find ways to thrive, to have force multipliers so that you can thrive. You're multiplying your what am I looking for? It's a word. I can't think of it. But anyway, basically you're able to not only provide for yourself, but able to provide for others. You're a benefit, you're a multiplier yourself, thriving in the environment, whether it's any of the ones we just talked about, whether it's after disaster or it's the disaster we're fixing to go through, extreme rule of law and everything else. How can you not make yourself thrive and so you can help others and be a benefit to others? Because that is the essence of it if you really get down to what you want to look forward to doing. Obviously, that's kind of higher level prepping, but start with the basics, obviously, and then work your way up. You think, hey, Barry Wood, what's going on? Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you, Barry. How you doing up there? Everything winterized, ready, rolling through. It's been kind of warm here. Speaking of winter and stuff, we've had some good storms. We had some good snows a couple times, but it's been warm in between. Like we got snow coming in this weekend, I believe, but it's warm right now. It's like it had to be in the 50s today, which is rather unusual. It should be down, lower 40s, even 30s in the January to February timeframe. We should be getting really cold, but we've been kind of warm. I know I saw some weather from some other places. It's been really cold there, so it's just one of those years, I guess. So here we are. So Barry checks in. What's going on? Pirate signal, Tony. Right, Wes hits it right there. The idea is to live through something bad and come out no worse for wear, right? Come out no worse than you went in, right? If you come out a little bit better, that's even better, depending on how it goes down. It's cold where Tony's at. Right. Well, Tony, it just snowing, Tony, Vegas kid, can't handle anything below 50 anyway. So there we go. America Died. How's it going? Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. I think I saw you in some other chats relatively recently. Yeah. So I got to roll out, fellas. It's about that time. I didn't want to do much more than this, but it is good to see everybody. I wanted to get a lot of the thoughts from the last basically 3-4 weeks in here because leading up to the new year is always something new to see and how we're going to approach the new year. So basically, to rehash for those that may have missed it, you can always rewind this back to the after it kind of gets loaded into YouTube there. Big concerns. Obviously, you have to prepare for your regular disasters. Be concerned about your tornadoes and earthquakes. But big thing on the horizon, extreme rule of law is the big thing that looks like it's rolling down the pipeline. And they seem to be implementing it as we speak. If the stories about this rally are true and how they're rounding up people at airports and stuff, roundup's probably a bad word, but basically picking them up if they're taken in for questioning or whatever. Extreme rule of law coming in, set up by Trump, which I want to say I told you so, but that's the big thing. And then the economic situation continuing to degrade, hyperinflation, and the effects that has on everything that you touch. because so pretty much the central bank controls the economy now as best they can. They want to control it more, but they want to induce hyperinflation because that's the only way they can stay afloat. So be on the lookout for that. Be prepared for it. Think about how to maximize not only your cash but your skills and abilities to be able to grow and produce. Um, that's going to be very important, I think, coming forward. Just that's what I would say to everybody to look for: how to minimize your exposure to those things, minimize your exposure to the lawful authorities, minimize your exposure to the economic calamity that is partaking us. And I'm not sure I don't necessarily have all the answers, but that's something that I would say evaluate and look at and think about throughout the year continuously. See how it's either getting better, or it won't get better, I don't think, but it's getting worse and worse, and how it's getting worse maybe for you in your area because there's all the second and third order effects that take place: increased economic calamity, greater crime, more police presence, more police state presence, more police state activity, which puts a crunch on your freedom of movement and everything else. So there's a lot of factors that are going to trickle into that for this year. So that's kind of what we started off at the beginning. And yeah, I guess that's it, folks. Thanks for checking in. You can always rewind, but good to see everybody come around and doing the chat. Appreciate it. You know what to do. Prep hard, live free.